Do you remember the movie Rocky? When Adrian woke up out of the coma and whispered in Rocky's ear to win?
Yes, I remember that.
Well, the people of the United States of America are whispering in your ear to win to run for president of the United States.
Well, we'll see. How about that? Thank you. That's very nice. And I try to remember to say that all the time because it is really nice for anybody in this country to say to somebody else that you should consider running for president. And I am considering running for president. I haven't made up my mind yet. When I do make up my mind, I'm going to let everybody know. I've said that there's three very simple questions that I'm asking myself, and I have to answer these three questions yes in order to run. If I can't answer yes, then I'm not going to run. Is it good for me? Is it good for my family? Is it good for my country?
If you do become the president of the United States, I'm thinking of more as, and I don't want to put this down, but the press seems to get your worst side all the time. Shut up, sit down, idiots. And my kids at home and my kids at school say, why does the governor do that? Now, I could say Jersey or Jersey. You know, I was born and bred in Jersey. That's not going to work in the United States. And I really feel that you need to tone it down a little bit.
First off, let me say this. I appreciate your comments. I really do. And so, you know, there are always going to be differences of opinion on people's style, right? And how you approach things. And the fact is that for me, you know, everything that I've ever said in my public life is not something that I would necessarily say again. When I think that I've said something that's over the line, you know, I'll apologize for that. And I always just say to me all the time, you know, Christopher, be yourself. Because then tomorrow you don't have to try to remember who you pretended to be yesterday. I think we've had too much, and this is not Republican or Democrat, both. I think we've had too much of people in public life pretending to be something. And so, you're going to get what you see.
So my question is, if you do run for president, what would you change about the way things are going in Washington, D.C. today?
Well, how about this? How about if we start off with the fact that people don't talk to each other anymore? See what we're doing here today? People who agree, people who don't agree, we're talking to each other. And I got some great advice from an old boss of mine. When I was U.S. Attorney, was the chief federal prosecutor in the state for 7 years, from 2002 to 2009. And I had a boss, the Deputy Attorney General of the United States for a period of time, who's actually now the director of the FBI. His name is Jim Comey. Jim's a great guy. One time, he came to visit me in the office when I was U.S. Attorney. He was my boss, and he met a bunch of the people who worked for us. And then we met alone together, and he said, I said to him, Jim, where are you going after this? And he said, I'm going to the New York Times editorial board. Now, Jim worked for John Ashcroft, who was Attorney General at the time, and for President Bush. And let's just say that in general, they weren't the favorite people at the New York Times. And so I looked at him, I said, Jim, are you crazy? On the New York Times editorial board? I mean, you know, that's not going to be pleasant. And he said, no, Chris, you don't get it. He said, I'm going there because it's much harder to hate up close. And so I think one of the things that has to change in Washington, whether I run for president or I don't, is that the president and the Congress has to work with each other more, has to get to know each other better, because it's harder to hate up close. I'm not going to bore you with like my 10-point plan on whatever. Because none of that matters until you start to develop the relationships you need to develop where people can trust each other. And that applies to every different human interaction we have with each other. And that's what I would try to do if I were ever to do that, but that's a long way off. But I'll just keep trying to do it here. If I get a chance to do it someplace else, we'll see whether I'm successful at it or not. But thank you for your question. It was really good.